Oh, hi! This week we're doing a t-shirt project because I haven't done one in a while, and I bought a shirt that I really like the design of, but the only size that was left was much too big on me. So there's a brewery that I really like called From the Barrel, and around Halloween of 2021 they did a collaboration with a local tattoo artist to get this awesome shirt design that was also originally for the can art. It was just too cool of a design to not also release t-shirts when the beer came out, and it is called Creeping Death, which feels just the right amount of spooky. If you're into beer at all, it is a triple IPA and it is 10%, and the name is accurate. It'll sneak up on you. But super tasty if you like the hazy New England style IPAs. That brewery is very good at that. Not sponsored, I just really like their stuff. Also, one of my top 5 favorite beers of all time is their Coffee Remedy Porter. Not super chocolatey and like the base beer style, like the porter itself is really good, and then when they add the coffee to it, it is exceptional. But enough about the beer, back to the shirt. So they did a release of the shirt on Halloween and it was sold out by the time I got to the brewery, and this was one of the leftovers from the second batch of shirts, and yeah, I just didn't get back there in time to get a size that would fit me otherwise. So trying it on, it is super comfy, and I don't necessarily mind the length. Like, it's a little excessively long for me, and I can't believe that is even something I'm saying because everything is forever too short on my body. And I don't mind boxier, not super fitted shirts. Certainly I am currently wearing something that's like pretty loose, but this is a little excessive on me, so we're gonna do some sorcery. I am limited with what I can do to the shirt because it has this pocket on the front and then a full back design. Can't really hack up most of the shirt. So I decided to try some front center ruching, which I've done on sleeves and like going up the shirt. I actually did this with one of my work shirts from the brewery I work for, which is in the same building as From the Barrel, so like, could we have better neighbors? And I'm going for a similar thing. Like, that tank top, the sides are adjustable. This shirt will also be adjustable. Now, I used some scrap fabric to make the channels, but if you don't have extra fabric and you don't have like a collar and a bottom hem to contend with, I mean, I suppose you could still make those work, but it's because I was keeping the collar and the hem intact that I did not take this approach. All right, I'm going to show you on some scrap what you can do if you don't have scrap fabric to use for this project. So pretend this is the center front of my shirt, right? You're going to fold it right sides together, and then if you want 2 half-inch channels, so like an inch total, stitch in 1 inch. So I'll do a row right there. Okay, so I stitched in 1 inch there, so you have this little like tubey boy in here, right? Mush down so it looks like this, and then you can stitch back down along the center seam you just made, and that will tack down this, so you'll have the center of the 2 channels. And then if you want it to lay flat, like, you can just do that initial stitch and you'll have the 2 tubes, but they'll be sticking out kind of like this. It'll make like a little X all the way up, but if you want to flatten it out, you can do some top stitching on the further out edges of the tube. Hopefully that helps. Just if you don't have scraps that'll work for what your project is, but you want to do this sooner than later, there's your option. What I ended up doing is I took some leggings that have been sitting around for forever. They got destroyed by an adorable but very high energy boxer. His name's Remy, if you're curious, and he's all red and he's very cute. And he thinks he's the size of Bert, though he is not. So yeah, anyway, the legging, as long as I went more towards the out seam, so like not near the crotch seam where things are shorter, went to the outside, I got a strip that was about 2.5 inches wide. Oh, just kidding, it's 2 inches wide. I'm glad I just measured. Not that you need things to be the exact same measurement as mine. And that's way more wide than this needed to be. I could have done like 1/2 inch either side and it would have been fine. So then to find the center front of the shirt, this does not have side seams under the arms, so I had to fold the shirt in half, like where the neck seams are for where the shoulders meet, go that way. Then I realized I needed to do this inside out. So then I flipped the shirt and then had it inside out, and then was just really diligent about getting this fold nice and even. Then because I had a 2-inch strip, right, I marked in a little less than 1 inch with some chalk past that fold line on both sides. Ugh, okay, I did the adult thing and I needed water, but my water bottle was empty, so I stopped recording to get up and refill my water and have taken time to drink like half of it. I have definitely been bad about keeping myself hydrated the past couple days, and I can feel it. I can feel it like behind my eyes, just in my whole body. Ugh, okay. Now where was I? Talking about that strip. So I marked the chalk lines either side of the center, so it was like almost 1 inch over both sides. Then I stitched one edge of the legging strip down along one chalk line and then stitched the other end along the other chalk line. So I had 2 parallel rows going up either edge of the extra strip. I was initially gonna add some length and put it all the way up to the collar, but I didn't want anything sticking out and also like rubbing here because that's the tightest part of the shirt. And I knew there was gonna be a knot where the 2 ties met at the top, and I just didn't want that sticking out like at the top here. So I left that strip a little bit short, so it's a couple inches below the collar. So the channels start where the top of my bust is, which is where I want the ruching to be anyway. It's both to kind of scrunch stuff up along my tummy, but also like give some shaping along my bust. That all worked out fine. So once those 2 edges were stitched, I then just did one more line of stitching right down the middle. This is obviously visible from the front side outside of the fabric, so just keep in mind when you're stitching to make it look nice and have matching thread or a thread color you want to be visible. Oh, actually, I just remembered. I did a little sketch of this like 2 weeks ago, and I'm actually curious how this compares. Oh, so I had thought about doing ruching on the sleeves as well. Obviously, the design doesn't look anything like this. But this is my attempt at like the front ruching happening here. And yeah, I didn't make the sleeves look like how this came out, but I like what I did even better. I think having 3 different sections of ruching was going to be a little bit too much for my personal taste. Okay, so once I have the center line between the 2 outer lines, it's time to make our drawstrings. So I just took 2 more thin strips of the legging material, basically the same length as the strip that I just did. I cut 1-inch wide strips, but then once you stretch it, it's just a tiny little drawstring like this. And it will also lengthen it. So I took this tool here. You can use a safety pin if your channels are wide enough. This is the purple thing, and I pulled the strings through this little opening here. It's like its own little eye, and then I scooted this through one of the tubes. It doesn't really matter what direction you're going, especially if you have 2 separate pieces. If you have one whole piece, you gotta start at the bottom, loop around the top, and then come back out the other side because you want the 2 ends to be sticking out the bottom. At least for me. Whatever end you want your pieces sticking out is where you have to start feeding the string into. I am very close to stabbing myself with this. So since mine was in 2 pieces, I just pushed it through each side, pulled it out the bottom, made sure there was a tail either end. I did that for both sides. Then I knotted the 2 at the top. Again, an upside of having the channel start a little lower is this knot is sticking out where my bust is starting to push out, so it's not actually rubbing against me at all. You could also stitch them together however you want to attach the 2, but knotting it did just fine for me. And then I tied some little knots at the bottom of each strand just so it didn't get sucked up into the channels too easily. And now the entire front is fully adjustable, and it is one of my favorite textures, running my fingers along super scrunchy fabric like this. So then once I got that sorted out, it was time to try the shirt back on. I was trying to go 1 feature at a time, and even with this center ruched up, I still feel like I'm drowning in fabric at the sides. So I thought, let's start with cutting off the sleeves. So I cut like right inside that shoulder seam. So the actual seam allowance and serging from the original shirt assembly is attached to the sleeve, so it's just like a clean edge on the torso part. And because this shirt is a couple sizes too big, the shoulder on this is nice and wide on me, so I actually think I'm gonna leave it with the sleeves off. Then it was time to try it on again and see where I wanted the side seams to end. So I just played around in the reflection on the camera with how far in I could pinch it with like my fingers, and it went like the full length of my fingers. So then I measured how far that is. So just put a ruler in the middle, and that's 3 inches from the hand pit. I don't know what you call this part, the webbing. So from this point to the tip of my middle finger is 3.5 inches. So I had the shirt inside out. I folded it so that I had even side seams, that things looked as symmetrical as possible as they could be on both sides. And I just took a ruler and measured a line. I did end up adding like a little bit of a curve in at the waist just because I slimmed down at the waist and then it comes back out. I should have gone back out a little further, like made it almost more hourglassy for where the bust is, because initially it fit pretty tight. It's a new shirt. Now that I've worn it a little bit, it is already giving more than it was when I first put it on, so like it's gonna be fine. That's why the ruching is here, is so I am less self-conscious about my stomach, and it's gonna fit on my chest a lot better and not look so boxy, so it's okay. Especially if I have something high-waisted on with this top, I will be plenty comfortable wearing it. The only other thing I did was like make a point to mark where like I needed the armhole to end so that I didn't just stitch all the way up the side if I was taking in that much. So when I made the chalk mark, I came up fairly straight here and then like had it go out so that I could have the slightest bit of a sleeve shape. Oops, my battery died, so you had to come a little bit closer because I have you on the charger while we record the last bit here. But yeah, that's the project. That was the last step, was hemming that outer edge of the sleeve just so that's nice and finished. You could leave it raw though. It's a knit. It ain't gonna fray. You could also cut the bottom hem off. You could cut the collar off. There's a lot of other tweaks you can do to this particular project, and I'm really happy about how it fits. I'm excited to wear this, especially with summer coming on and not being able to live in these sweaters for too much longer. Also, look who came to say hello. Always at the wrap up. He knows he needs his air time before we head off to take our walk for the afternoon that he has insisted on us doing every day. And I'm thankful for it for both our sakes, but I'm just still flabbergasted that he decided the older he's gotten, the more active he's gonna be. Before we do that, I would love to thank everybody over on Patreon for letting me do this. This is one of my jobs, and it's because of y'all that is a thing I get to do. It's absolutely wild that I get to keep learning my favorite thing and sharing stuff with y'all. I'm so thankful for this entire community. It's all folks that I would love to hang out with in real life, where that's not always the case in some of the internet communities I'm part of, where I'm like, this is a lot. Regardless of your Patreon status or uninvolvement, I'm just very thankful for all of y'all because you're great and I thoroughly enjoy your company. So I'm glad you seem to enjoy mine. Let's keep hanging out. I never ask people to subscribe because, like, I figure if you are so compelled, you will do so. But I suppose it's worth saying, hey, if you want to see more of these and you aren't already, you can hit the button. Anyways, we will see you back here with another video next Friday. Thank you so much for hanging out. You're so cute, but you're so smelly.